right, today we are going to be talking about Facebook ads versus Google ads. Which one is better? So the short answer is it depends, which I know is the worst answer in the world. But what we have to do before we talk about which platform or which approach is better, let's talk about some of the factors that you have to consider in this process. Some of the factors that we have to know are we have to know your goals, we have to know your audience, and we also have to know what does your existing sales cycle look like, because a lot of these ads might help you generate a lead or get someone to your website or to your marketing funnel. But if you have no lead nurturing process or no conversion process, it's going to be very difficult to understand the ROI of this approach. So what am I saying here is that the reason why I'm saying it depends is because when I factor in all of those factors, it could take me in different directions. Sometimes I might lean towards Facebook, sometimes I might lean towards Google. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit more specifically. So let's pretend like I know that my goal is to generate more sales. What I want to be able to do is I want to be able to develop ads in either one of those platforms that's going to be able to communicate effectively who we are, what we do, and the value and benefit that we provide to our client. That's table stakes. That's what most companies should be doing with their ads. However, because there's so much noise on these advertising platforms, you really have to find ways to stand out and be unique. And so that approach is going to work in both platforms. But when I try to say, what is my goal? I want to be able to know, you know what? Am I trying to get someone into the top of the funnel that's going to push them all the way down to the bottom of the funnel? Is that my goal? Am I starting this journey with my ads? Or is this part of my nurturing process, that they're familiar with my brands, they're familiar with their problem, but now they're trying to figure out which provider works better. So therefore, my ads might push them, have already assumed that they're in awareness and in consideration stage, and now our ad is really trying to nail down the decision level, portion of this process. You might have other goals. It might be to extend your brand, or even extend your personal brand to get more likes, followers, and connections. So when I say which platform, I just need to know your goals and I need to know your starting spot, okay? Now let's talk a little bit about Facebook ads. There's a lot of benefits that I'm going to mention here in Facebook that I also would include on the list for Google, but let me kind of walk through some of the ones that I think are top of mind. The first thing you need to know is the power of Facebook itself. If you were to take almost all the other social media platforms, maybe not YouTube, but all the other social media platforms and combine them into one, that's about the size of Facebook. It is a monstrosity. It's the number one mall in the world. The amount of time and energy and hours that people put into Facebook it's astronomical. And so the question of why would I be on Facebook? Well, it's the biggest mall in the world, and that's where people are spending the large majority of their time. So yes, you should be trying to use Facebook as a decent engine to help promote your brand and your business. We're going to talk in a little bit about, hey, you know what, if I'm a business-to-business client, why would I use Facebook? I'm going to talk about that. But if it's the biggest mall in the world, why wouldn't you put up a booth, specifically if it's free? Now, the bad part about Facebook is that you can go and you can develop a business, a business page, and you can do all your branding and you can get more likes and basically people to follow you. But the reality is that it's a pay-to-play game. And what I mean by that is that don't be fooled that just because you have a Facebook page and you post to it regularly, what you should know, it's called the Reach Armageddon or Reach Apocalypse or it's whatever Forbes called it. Essentially what it means is that whenever you do a post, only about 1 or 2% of the individuals who follow your business on Facebook are even seeing those posts. So what are they doing? They're really forcing you to advertise. And in a weird way, they're de-incentivizing likes because you can just advertise to get to these people anyway. So why would you commit to Facebook? Well, don't commit to Facebook without committing to Facebook ads, okay? And there's several different ways you can advertise. One of the other benefits of Facebook is the idea is that it's super targeted. The reason why Facebook is so powerful is it allows people to get onto their platform and upload all the information about themselves every day, their likes, their dislikes, down to like the coffee they drink, the meals they eat, what their grandkids look like, you name it. But what they're doing is they're using all of that data to better advertise to you, and then they're selling that data to businesses that want to market to you better, okay? So they're sort of in the data industry, all right? So you need to know that when you get involved with Facebook is that, you know what? I'm probably going to be able to reach people in the most targeted way possible because there's no other engine on the planet that collects more data than Facebook. Maybe Google, maybe the government. In that process, if I know who my target audience is, I want to be able to do a number of different things once I've focused who my target audience is. What I want to be able to do is I want to put a pixel on your computer, and what happens here is that any of your potential clients that come to your website, when they leave your website, right, you can do what's called retargeting, which basically makes your ads follow them around wherever they go, and in particular to make sure that your ads show up on their Facebook news feed. So they don't have to go to your Facebook business page. They can literally go to your own website, and Facebook's able to draw the connection so your ads follow them around in a Facebook experience. That's on mobile and on desktop. Okay, so that's one of the other benefits is that you're able to target that. But what that pixel also does is it allows you to go back to Facebook and say, hey, you know what? These are the people that have engaged with my website that I know about. Facebook, can you find me 10,000 other people in a lookalike audience that would also match the demographics and the interest of the people that came to my website? And now Facebook is marketing to the people you know and the lookalike audience that you don't know. So now people that don't know your brand are now following you, are able to follow what you're doing in Facebook. All right, it's the ultimate form of interruption marketing. Now here's what we hear a lot. It's like, hey, I'm a business to business company. Why would I invest in Facebook? It's more of a business to consumer product. Well, the reason why you do that is because we have always said, hey, it's B2B or B2C. Well, the new term that I want you to kind of understand is something that we call B2P. And what B2P means is business to person, all right? Because even if you are B2B, means business to business, a business is made up of people. And when people aren't working, they live their daily lives. And one part of their daily lives that, that's unavoidable is that many people use their spare time in social platforms. And the number one social platform is Facebook. So what I'm saying here is that B2B is really B2P. And so let me kind of explain what that would look like. I'm trying to reach out to hardware companies, okay? And I have a message, I sell hammers. This hardware company buys hammers. They buy hammers in bulk. They buy them by 1,000 hammers at a time. They would be an ideal client for me, right? Now, they are not going to go to Facebook and say, hey, you know what? What hammer providers would be best for us to provide, to our clients? They just don't do that, right? But what they do is that they go and they have employees that work at that hardware store. And in their downtime, those people, they've looked at your website, they kind of looked at your products and services, and then they left that website. But what they did is that when they left your website, they also lived their daily lives. And in their daily lives, they also checked out Facebook. And what happens is that your ads followed them around and targeted them in their personal lives. And that stuck in their memory so that when they went back to work, they remembered your products and services, okay? It's a way of interrupting them. It's also a way of nurturing them and staying top of mind, okay? So stop thinking of B2C, business to consumer, and B2B, and start thinking B2P, okay? The next thing is, let's look at the Google ad platform. I'm not gonna be able to go into every detail of this. A lot of the things that we talked about with Facebook are also included in Google. You can become super targeted. You can do retargeting ads that follow people around. You look at that pair of shoes on Amazon and those shoes follow you around wherever you go for the next 30 to 60 days. What I want to start to talk about is some of the technology that Google has that Facebook doesn't, because this might be a better fit for you. One of the things that Google does is that you have to start thinking that Google is just a system that is built around questions and answers. When you think about questions and answers, if you know it in that perspective, what you're going to start to say is, hey, you know what? How do I advertise in a way that, what are the questions that my potential client might have, and how do I advertise in a way that I get my products and services right in front of them? So what Google allows us to do is it allows you to become super targeted, and it gives you a ton of data to refine your process to figure out what's working and what's not. But what it also does, it allows you to use technology to figure out what messaging might work better than others. So one of my favorite portions of Google is something called the responsive ad. And what the responsive ad does is, let me describe it. This is oversimplified, but imagine there's a bucket and I'm going to drop pictures of my products and services into that bucket. I'm going to put in taglines and headlines and all the important things I want them to know. And what happens is the responsive ad, Google, through AI technology, takes all that stuff and it makes multiple different ads. And then it places those ads on multiple different websites in a targeted fashion, the way that that you and your company or we set up in advance. But what the AI technology does is to figure out what ad works best in what websites and what environments and what time of day and what audiences. It does all of that in the background. It gives you all the data. So it says this is the best possible ad for you to be using on this particular platform. So it really does a lot of the hard work for you, and that's how the AI works. The next thing that I want to do is talk about when I'm using an ad, I also want to figure out Google is really good of using ad targeting here and then also using SEO here. So what I mean by that is that they're a siloed approach that can now be married. And so what I'm saying here is that from an SEO perspective, I'm going to try to get it so that my website comes up when certain people type in certain products and services on Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Okay? When they go and they type in these services and your ads show up, that's exactly the way we were hoping it would work. Is they type in keywords and your ads correspond to those keywords. But that's the exact same approach that you would use for SEO as well. So the question you sort of have to ask yourself is, if I can increase my SEO so I'm found on the first page of Google over here, and theoretically SEO is considerably cheaper than advertising, how do I want to set up my advertising campaign to work in synergy with my SEO? So option one is, as the keywords increase in SEO, I stop advertising for them over here and I pivot that budget to other keywords that I might not have had the budget for. Or as SEO increases, I decrease my paid ads budget. All right, so they work in harmony with each other. And you will be able to have in one platform using Google Analytics, you'll be able to figure out what's working versus what's not working. You'll have all the data to do that. And if you don't understand that, that's where a company like Faratech comes in to help you understand how these things work, how to set it up so you don't have to think about it. The next portion I want to talk about is something called geotargeting. Geotargeting is the concept of advertising to specific people based upon certain regional parameters. So let me give you an example. Let's pretend like there is this major conference that you can't go to, and all of your target audience would be right there at that conference. What you can do is that you can literally put the GPS coordinates of that conference into Google Ads, and so your ads are only going to show to the people that are at that venue. And so you can get very hyper specific. In a previous blog, I talked about the idea that we have a client that markets to people that are interested in Major League Baseball. And what we did is we geo-target Coopertown, which is the Baseball Hall of Fame, all right? And the hotels around Coopertown. So now we're not advertising to the whole world of people that might not be interested. If you go to Coopertown, you are highly, highly interested in baseball. And then finally, this is not finally, but the final thing I can talk about today is the idea of competitor advertising. What Google allows you to do that's very specific that Facebook kind of doesn't is it allows you to find out how do my competitors communicate? What audience are they attracting? And then you can find the pillar pages or the critical pages on their website. You can literally take that URL and you can put that into your advertising campaign. And you can essentially tell Google, hey, the people that would be interested in my client's products and services, specifically this page on their website, I would like to advertise to people with those type of demographics and those type of interests, with my advertising, all right, with my ads, all right? It's not a one-to-one. It's not allowing you to retarget from their website, but it is allowing you to create almost like a lookalike audience that we can market to based upon the specificity of the work that's been done by your competitor. They've done the hard work. They've attracted the audience. We collect all the data of those type of people that are coming to their website to get that far down the funnel, and now we're advertising to their lookalike audience. So there's a lot to factor in there. You know what I mean? There's what are your goals? What are your audience? What kind of sales system do you currently have? What kind of approach do you want to use? What fits better with the audience that I'm trying to reach for? Remember, stop thinking about business to business and business to consumer and start to think about business to person. But then also try to say, hey, you know what? If I'm going to start to use SEO and other platforms, how do I want to use my advertising and my SEO, in conjunction with one another? Okay. And then finally, the best way to know what platform is better for you is to create ads in both platforms, monitor the success, and then double down on what works and what doesn't work. The answer might be both. It might be one platform or the other, but rather than making hunches and guesses or trying to reach out to a marketing company that thinks they might know the answer, I recommend that you do the experiments yourself, monitor the details, and then see what works best for you. If you have any questions about this approach or about this video, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to help you.